Leland Conway is on News Radio 630 WLAP and WLAP.com.
I don't know about you, but I think Lexington's a pretty cool city. Pretty proud it's my hometown area. And I think a lot of people are. It's why so many people are moving here. I was surprised to find out the other day that we've already topped 300,000 people. When I went to college back in the 1990s, I think that it hadn't even quite gotten too much past 250,000. Maybe it was even less than that. But it's kind of, and when I was a kid, I can remember when Harrodsburg Road was 2 lanes all the way into almost to New Circle, and Nicholasville Road was a 2-lane road all the way into, let's see, gosh, I remember Mayoral being put in. So crazy stuff. Anyway, the mayoral race is underway, and we'll be choosing between Ronnie Baston and Linda Gorton. Linda Gorton, of course, has served on council for some years and has the experience of that. We want to welcome her to the program. Linda, how are you this morning?
I am well, Leland. Thank you for having me. You're making me smile.
Well, we have a great city.
Reminiscing about Lexington and how it's grown and what a great place it is.
I know. We used to, our family church, I guess it would be now Liberty Road Community Church, but at the time it was Richmond Road Community Church. And it's interesting now. There's like all of those big corporate buildings and stuff there. That was where we went to church long before Mayoral was even created. We had to come all the way into New Circle Road and then out Richmond Road that way. Anyway, it's growing, and that's one of the, I think, the interesting points about this mayoral's race is that we want the city to continue to grow, but we don't necessarily want to see the heritage of our horse farms and that sort of thing that makes Lexington what it is, the identity of the city, go away. How are you planning to tackle that as mayor?
Well, it's a fine balance. And you talked about our growth. We're hovering right around 320,000 people right now.
It's insane.
And we're growing 30,000 people every census. That's very steady. So this balance is going to take some creative thinking, Leland. And we can't do things the way we used to. So one of the things we're focusing on is our infill inside the growth boundary. And growing up, you can see, particularly downtown, some of the ways that buildings are going up higher in our downtown. And then if you move out a little bit, you see some of the infill that's happening, like the Hampton Inn that got built a few years ago at Southland and Nicholasville Road,
right.
That kind of thing. So, that Hampton Inn is about 4 stories high, so it's the highest building in that area. And that's how we're going to, I think, more efficiently use our land that we have left to develop inside. And that, that protects a really thriving ag business. A lot of people look outside the boundary, turn around, look at farms, it's pretty. But those are working businesses.
Right, yeah. And we want to keep them there because I'm sad every time I see a farm with a for sale sign. We're losing that, and it's becoming industrial farms instead of family farms, and I think that's less healthy for us overall. One of the concerns I have about your plan, though, in terms of the infill, is the issue of affordable housing. Not that I don't want affordable housing, but how do we do that without redistributing wealth?
Well, we've got some, for one thing, when I was vice mayor of Lexington, we established an affordable housing fund inside government. It's not a humongous fund, but it is some money that builders can tap into to make their housing more affordable, for example, when they're doing apartments or something like that. And the other thing is we have some builders here in town who've been very successful building affordable housing, and we need to get them at the table and
when you say it's not a big
how
fund,
they've done this.
When you say it's not a big fund, how big is it, and where does the money come from?
It is a big fund. It's about $2 million, but it's spread over all of Fayette County for whatever affordable housing needs there are.
Right.
And it's in the city budget. So people like P.G. Peoples and Austin Sims and our developer Holly Wiedemann, those kinds of people know how to do this.
Right.
They're already doing it. So we've got to have a laser focus on it because we don't want to become like some of the cities in California where the service workers can't afford to live there.
Right.
You know,
Well,
they
yeah,
live
yeah.
elsewhere.
Well, California, Seattle,
Right.
they're having problems.
Boulder.
Yeah. So in terms of one of the other issues facing, I guess, inner Lexington, if you will, is violence. How are you going to tackle that issue of, it's sad to me. I can remember just a few years ago, as much as all this growth has been great, you almost never heard of, shootings and drive-bys and things like that. And now they're happening on a fairly regular basis. How do we deal with that?
Well, crime, there's no doubt crime has been rising the last few years, and a lot of that is a result of the drug trade here. And so our police are going to have to keep a hard focus on keeping drugs out and getting the traffickers and the dealers. Because when we can impact our drug trade here and bring it down, crime will go down. And, the police can only do their part. We've got to focus on the addiction problem, they'll tell you it goes right hand in hand with our crime. And so that can't be done in silos. It's got to be done by everybody sitting at the table. When I'm mayor, I'm going to have police, fire, mental health, addiction experts at UK. They're already working on new treatments. And get these folks treated so that they can become productive members of our society, get jobs. So many people can't get a job right now because they can't pass a drug screen. So they're out working on the streets, committing crimes to get money for drugs. I mean, it's all interrelated. So we've got to have a hard focus on that.
Do you think part of that problem is, and I don't know that this would even be out of the mayor's hands, but maybe just require leadership as you push in that direction. Mm-hmm. But one of the problems we have is that we're almost too heavy on minor crimes and too hard on light crimes. Mm-hmm. In other words, we will ruin somebody's life with a marijuana conviction, and then they get caught in this cycle of poverty and crime. But then when they actually commit a violent crime, we don't actually put them away. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like, I think that's what's happening in Chicago, what's happening in Louisville, and it's a problem where we're not, somebody smokes a doobie, and by God, we'll ruin their life. But somebody mugs somebody or kills somebody, and they're back out on the street in 2 years.
Right, and that's where, yes, I'm sorry, but see, this is where we need to work with our judicial system.
Yeah.
If the police can arrest people all day long, but if the judicial system isn't aligned with this kind of thinking that you're talking about, then the same thing just continues. So we need some reform and some really good conversation there with our judges
I would
and
agree.
our prosecutor.
Yeah. Let's talk taxes. Let's talk taxes. You won't raise them, will you?
No. In my 16 years on council, we never, ever voted to raise the occupational license fee, and that's the main source of income for the urban county government. I mean, think about that. Other entities raise taxes every year, and we kept them low. That's one of the great things about Lexington is our low cost of living. That's one reason people want to be here.
Right.
And so we will keep them low like they are. And most of the property taxes go to the schools, the libraries, Lextran, the health department. The property tax doesn't really go very much to urban county government. But so we're all dependent on jobs, Leland. We've got to be business friendly, to continue to go looking for jobs. And I think one of the places that we have really some great potential is our high-tech jobs. They are usually higher paying, and we're setting ourselves up really well with our gigabit infrastructure that's being put in right now, the high-speed internet, and we're also putting in these small cell towers that will take us to be a 5G city. And this will all be very attractive to business.
Well, let's talk about attracting. Yeah, no, that's great. And let's talk about attracting businesses. I would ask, I'm a fan of government transparency.
Too.
Over in Louisville, the mayor of that city, Mayor Fisher, he is trying to lure businesses, but right now there's a fight going on where he doesn't want to reveal how he entices them, how he entertains them. And how would you be with that? Would you be willing to reveal to the citizens of Lexington what offers you're giving to companies that are coming in, what incentives, and the way that you're going about wining and dining those businesses?
Absolutely, because guess what? Those are tax dollars. Those are your dollars and my dollars. Unfortunately, I think that in some cases, elected officials get into office and they forget whose money they're working with. And I have a huge, long history of being transparent. Everything practically that I do in terms of government work is somewhere on the internet. You can find it. It's why
that's
I
everybody's
my
life now.
donors. My campaign donors are all online for everybody to see. And everything I do has been that way. And I think the people deserve to know where their tax dollars are going. Don't you?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean,
basic.
that's why I asked.
Very basic. Yep. It's very basic, and we've got to continue doing that, or people lose faith in their government.
Let's tackle this last issue. It's the bane of my existence. It's traffic.
Uh-oh.
It's traffic. I think a lot of people have problems with it in Lexington, and I said even with your opponent, the same thing. It is. The city's designed like a spoke in a wheel, and
right.
I don't know that there is an overriding solution, but there's got to be ways we can do things better.
Yes.
How would you try to make places like Nicholasville Road in front of the mall with the horrific light timing, the same for Harrodsburg Road and other catchy intersections around town, the north side, how would you make that better and flow better?
Well,
aside from getting out there and directing traffic yourself.
Right. Yeah, I can't do that. But the first thing is, during the last few years, I know that our traffic engineers have tinkered with light timing, which is important. They've put in those flashing yellow left-hand turn lights, which I think are a wonderful idea. And those kinds of little things help. But what we have never tried here that I think we need to pilot in a couple of intersections is some of the real intelligent traffic signals. And by those, I mean the ones that can sense traffic at the time in the intersection and change based on that. Now, we've never really had those. And we need to know what the upside and the downside is because I think everything has a downside, and be sure we know what we're getting into. But I think that's one thing we can explore, and it will help us. The other thing, just quickly, is that I'm a huge proponent of other modes of transportation. Now, a lot of us don't want to give up our cars, but I'll tell you, I've ridden Lextran. And once they can get Lextran to where it's closer to neighborhoods, I will get on it regularly because it's clean, it's efficient. Now most of them are electric, so they're not polluting. And so we've got a ways to go there, and then continuing with our bike trails and paths so people feel safe riding. Lots of people would ride their bike to work if they felt safe.
Well, they would do it maybe 3 months out of the year. Because in Kentucky, we only have it's shoulder season of spring and a shoulder season of fall where you can get to work without being totally sweaty and drenched.
Right.
I don't know that it would be a viable thing. Maybe an electric scooter or something like those bird scooters. Maybe that'll help. So.
Hey, I rode one of those
Did you?
the other day. I was out at the Orange Consulting Group. It's all young people working on different high-tech things, and they had an electric scooter out there, and I got on it, and it was great.
Maybe that's the answer. Some cities are having problems with them because they go 15 miles an hour, but I kind of like them. So whatever floats your boat. Well, you remember that 10 years ago, I proposed pneumatic tube systems here in Lexington, and I was joking, and now Elon Musk is doing it. So, like those old bank tubes, they could just suck us around town and, show us up. I'll show up downtown. There we are.
Well, you need to be on our work group to look into the future.
Careful what you wish for. Careful what you wish for.
That's right. The future, we've got to be thinking far out into the future about all of this. And what about self-driving cars?
No, I don't. No, thank you.
No, thank you?
No.
But the automakers are all focusing on that.
They absolutely are. And I think
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that's a whole other conversation about what that will do to the economy. So, listen, I've got to run. I'm up against time here. But Linda Gorton, running for mayor of Lexington, thanks for your time this morning. We'll talk again.
Thank you, lindagorton.com.
All righty, thanks. We'll continue.
Okay, thanks, Leland.
News Radio 630 WLAP.